Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Night Show. Not quite on a Monday. It's a post-Christmas show with me, James Hutchinson. Hope you've all had a good one. Join me tonight are Joe Scott, David Campbell and Tony Guest. Great to have you with us again, lads.
Evening all.
Evening.
Right, plenty to discuss tonight, everybody out there. Not only are we going to look back at last night's game with Sheffield Wednesday, we'll also look at the transfer window, which opens in just over 24 hours' time. We're going to chat about our favourite festive borough games, and we're also going to look ahead to Saturday's first ever league fixture with Wycombe Wanderers. So as always, get yourself involved on the Monday Night Show here on Borough Fan TV. We always love to hear your views and opinions, everyone. So lads, first of all, lots of matches are crammed in at this time of year in such a short space of time. But I'm sure you will all have special memories from festive games that Borough have been involved in the past. What's lodged in your memory bank? I'll come to you first, Guesty.
I was, like we say while we were off air, I was just explaining earlier on, working away. It was mainly just the Christmas games I could get to, and mainly Boxing Day games. And obviously you're getting some state on a Boxing Day, so I can't remember most of them. The one that sticks out in my mind was just before Christmas. We went down to Old Trafford. We were playing really well. I'm trying to think of the year. Might have been 98, 99, 98, going into 99. Yeah. And I was driving a load of lads down from the Spitfire in Thornaby. So I was a designated driver. And obviously when I got there, I didn't have a ticket, so it was a case of dropping them off, getting parked up and trying to find my way into Old Trafford. After doing a few laps of the stadium, I eventually got in. But we were 3-0 up in no time. It seemed to be no time. And all the United fans were booting the exits to get out because we were absolutely battering them. And when I did eventually get in, I managed to get in the disabled supporters end. The door was open, so I was in one of the corners, stood with the yellow coats, watching us turn Man United over. That's one that comes back to my memory. You know what I mean? That was an absolutely fantastic night. And then, obviously, I wasn't on the drink that day, and the lads who experienced it and had the good drink, it was an absolutely fantastic day.
You make up for it when you got home, though, Tony, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I got well looked after lads as well. Yeah. I think we turned out 3-2 winners that day. Absolutely fantastic. Rob O'Ten and his old boss over, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How about you, David? Any games from the past that you remember?
Yeah, probably the Everton one at home. It was absolutely Baltic. We won 4-2 and Janino got a double. I remember him celebrating and he looked absolutely freezing, like, welcome to English football.
And what about yourself, Joe? Any games from the past that you remember at this time of year involving the Borough?
Well, I can think of a couple that both have been against Man United, and one of them was what Guesty was talking about with that 3-2 win at Old Trafford, because it was one of the first Borough games I went to. And a funny story came out of this one. At the end of the game, most of the Borough fans had to stay back at the ground until all the United fans went. And I was desperate to go to the bathroom at the time. Well, as the old gentleman's then. And turns out I had to get one of the police officers to help me escort me down to the gentleman's, and then brought me up to my family afterwards. So it was a nightmare getting out of the game that day. And another Man United game springs to mind as well was the 3-1 win at the Riverside in the 02-03 season. I can remember with Boxic, Nemeth and Job getting the goals for us, and obviously Ryan Giggs getting one back from Man U. So there were still good Christmas fixtures that us Borough fans can remember back in the days.
Yeah. No, spot on, lads. That's great. That any of you viewers out there, if you've got any memories that you want to share about past games at this time of year involving Borough, let us know.
What's yours, James?
It's what, mate?
What's yours?
What, me? There's a few. I mean, I think the Man United ones definitely. I think even in recent years, just things like the last promotion season, the Derby game at the New Year. That was like a massive game, and it felt like a massive game at the time. And I think we went something like about 12 points clear after we won that, but it was nice to win such a big, important game. And I think that went a long way to getting us up that year, that match. But yeah.
Another one stands out in my mind was a couple of seasons ago was the Sheffield Wednesday one just before Christmas.
Yeah.
When, you know,
sacked.
Gary Monk and Clueless got sacked. Both teams got sacked, didn't they?
Yeah.
Both managers got sacked.
That's right, yeah. It's safe to say I don't think last night's game will go in the memory list or anything like that from games in Christmas future past or whatever.
No.
I think what was surprising though, David, first of all, was we were talking last week about it being Pulis v Warnock and fireworks on the touchline. Well, it didn't happen because Tony Pulis was relieved of duties 24 hours before the game. How much of a surprise was that to you, David?
Massive surprise. I mean, results haven't gone his way, but the statement caught me by surprise where it wasn't just about his results, it was problems obviously within negotiations of January transfer windows. I mean, there was no way Pulis would have took the Sheffield Wednesday job without having that conversation prior. So what's obviously shifted within those 45 days, you know, he did state he didn't think Sheffield Wednesday's first team squad was good enough. So they must have had targets before he came in. So I just found it a very strange timing, especially the night before the game. And he's had two good results. He came back off a draw and a win.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just getting an update now that Dozzers winning 3-1. So anyone that's watching us and wants to keep up to date with the darts, Dozzers winning 3-1. Thanks for my roving reporter there who's let me know the latest score. Joe, other people have suggested that maybe Pulis leaving the day before the game worked against us. What's your theory on that?
I don't know. I think there's a theory about every time Sheffield sacking managers is they always win the next game afterwards, and obviously that was the case there. And speaking of Pulis getting a boot, I'm not sure whether there was something going on behind the scenes at Sheffield, which I think Pulis told a few home truths about straight to the owners, and that's what got him the boot in the less than 24 hours before the game. So I don't know. I think it's just one of them things, you know. Every time that a manager goes, the team usually responds well. So it was just unfortunate we were on the other end of it.
Yeah, just a few viewers getting in touch with there. Francis Pape, hope you're well, Francis. He's saying, how's it going, lads? Stay safe, all the best for 2021. Let's smash Wycombe on Saturday, and we'll look at that game further on in the show. And Paul Scobie, who's over there in Belfast, he's just said he's back from his supporters meeting there, and he meets in a phone box with the rest of the supporters. Hope you're well over there, Paul. Tony, do you feel in a way that having the extended break with the Boxing Day game called off against Rotherham, did that work against us maybe? Because one or two people were saying, it was great having a little bit of an extended break, but it didn't turn out to our benefit, did it?
No, like you say, but Warnock will have been preparing the lads to, you know, go up against a Pulis team. You know what I mean? They worked around that. They worked on Pulis's tactics. They worked around how Pulis was going to set his team up. And obviously they had a standing manager last night, and he's just told them to go out and enjoy themselves by the looks of it, the way they scored the first two goals. I don't think when you're winning games the way we were, James, I don't think any type of break's any good. Do you know what I mean? It breaks up momentum. The players' minds go on other things. And they've had 10 days to think about this now. And yeah, it definitely went against us last night. And on the Pulis sacking, to me it rang. It sounded similar to the Crystal Palace carry on when he was there. Yeah. He came to the Borough, Pulis, and he didn't want to spend no money. Yeah. But when he was at Palace and now at Sheffield Wednesday, he's been promised money. But there's rumours flying about Sheffield Wednesday that even the players are struggling to get paid. So they've got a massive billionaire owner. He's, a billionaire. And this is where us as fans need to be careful what we keep wishing for with the likes of, with Gibson. It just shows you, it doesn't matter how much money you have in this league. It's not going to, guarantee you're going to get out of it. And obviously Sheffield Wednesday must be in more trouble than what's coming across in the press. Because like you say, Pulis is, 10 games, starting to sort him out, and then he walks away. So there's something not right at that club.
Yeah. Guess what you're saying there regarding Warnock's tactics, it was set up against Pulis. I couldn't agree more. But what surprised me was how leggy and sluggish we started. You know, considering we had that extra extended break over them, we just looked really tired legs.
Well, what I seen of it, Dave, I seen most of the first half. I felt after about 15, 20 minutes, we got a foothold in the game, and it was just a lack of quality and a bit more thought on crosses. And I think we might have been out of sight by half time. It was just, but like you say, whether they were leggy crosses or they were tired crosses, you know, all that could have come into it, you know what I mean? But a bit more thought and a bit more quality on our, you know, on our wingers and our wing play. We could have went in at half time comfortable, but it's history now, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of players are struggling with fatigue at the moment, no matter how much rest they're getting.
Yeah. David Jackson's got in touch with us, lads, and he said we just didn't turn up in the first half. Warner clearly bollocked them at half time, and it was a mistake to drop Tav. Now, I know one or two of us, we have different views on Tav. I like Tav, and I appreciate like the energy he brings to the team, and he tries to make things happen. Maybe not sometimes they go to plan, but he always seems to be involved in doing things. I was surprised when I read, though, today, Joe, that he started 18 of our 21 games this season, and the last game he missed was the defeat we had at Preston. Do you think maybe it was a mistake to leave Tav out? I know it's easy to say with hindsight, but do you think he should have maybe started Tav last night?
Probably could have, you know. I know he only started with Lewis Swin because of him picking up the 2 goals at Birmingham, but I don't know. I think Warnock just had a vision of using Wing to start with instead of Tavernier to play behind the Sombalonga, which it didn't work out. It didn't work out yesterday, so I definitely would prefer to start with Tav yesterday anyway. So well then.
Yeah. David, irrespective of league position, circumstances, who's the manager, you're asking for trouble if you're going to give sides a 2-goal start. I mean, just typical Borough in a way, isn't it? It's the first time Sheffield Wednesday have scored 2 goals at home in over a year and things like that. But irrespective of who you're playing, it's an uphill task, isn't it, once you're 2-0 down?
Yeah, and how many times have we spoken about that in the past, that we let teams get a foothold of the game first before we get to play? But under Warnock, we've not seen that, have we? So it was quite surprising yesterday. I mean, also, I think some of the tinkering from yesterday, you don't change a winning side. So I can't understand why he brought Watmore in over Tavernier when you've just come back off an excellent 4-1 result. We also swapped Fry and McNair, and Fry went to left centre-back. And I think that made a hell of a difference. We looked really lopsided because of that change.
Can you think of why he maybe did that, David?
I've no idea. McNair's been comfortable on the left-hand side, bringing it out, whether it was to cover Kadeem Harris, maybe. I don't know. Maybe like Guesty touched upon, it was something to do with Pulis's tactics from previous games and what he was expecting. But it really shocked me when I seen how we started in defence, really.
Yeah. And Tony, there's a lot of people getting in touch with us about Duncan Watmore. He was a bright spot for us in that game last night. Took his goal well. Arguably our best player on the night. That's his 5th goal this season. David Smith saying there, he just hopes Watmore stays. We definitely need him to sign. And we'll talk about, obviously, the transfer situation further on in the programme. But what did you make in general of Borough's performance last night and Duncan Watmore in general?
Duncan Watmore, he's been a breath of fresh air to not just to the first 11, but to the squad. He's enthusiastic, he's energetic, he's on the move all the time. He's everything, if you like, he's everything that Brit isn't. He's never on his heels. He's always looking for the ball. He's always, he's always sniffing about, and he gets the goals. Well, we'll go back. He gets Barry Slaven type goals. He obviously can get the goals from outside the box as well, but he's brought so much to our team. I've said in the past, he was in the knackers yard, and he's came back, and he's resurrecting his career at the Borough. And I just hope he stays with us, because when he was a kid, you could see the potential in him as a kid. He was a wonder kid at Sunderland. Yeah. Now, obviously, with injuries and other things going off the rails and that, he's knuckled down, and Warnock's getting the best out of him. And I think if you've got to pick between him and Tav at the moment, I think you've got to start. You've got to start with him. You've got to start with Watmore. Yeah, Tav has started a lot of games and is a bit hit and miss sometimes. But it's nice to have Tav on the bench and bring him on, and it just gives the squad a bit more depth. You know what I mean, James? If you can leave the likes of Tav out.
Do you think, though, David, you could maybe play both of them in the team, Tav and Watmore?
I was just about to say that, but why couldn't you play both? I know Johnson's been playing well, and obviously he would probably have to be sacrificed. But that would give you some really attacking outlets, having Watmore and Tavernier on both sides. And it gave you some real energy up front. I know Johnson's goals and assists have been good, but I'd like to see that Tavernier or Watmore.
Yeah. And Joe, it's something we've spoke about over the years, and it came back again to haunt us last night. Inability to take chances, and it was evident again. Why do you think this is still the case now at the Borough?
Just a case of another case of us in general, and particularly going into this period where we don't do well in these type of games. And I don't know how many I can count that Johnson could have got us the equaliser just after Watmore scored. I mean, that one chance that hit the post was probably the best chance in general. And then Tav had a good chance beforehand. So it's just a case of our luck, especially around festive period. There's no stranger fact to the Borough over the years.
Yeah. There's a few people. Paul Scobie's back in touch there. His solution, get rid of Britt, play Watmore and Tav. And David Jackson's been in touch with us again. Watmore preempts, crosses and gambles. He gets in the box. Britt stands and watches. And I can see you nodding your head there, Tony.
Yeah, but Britt gets a lot of stick. Britt gets sometimes the stick he gets, he deserves it. And he's not a reactive striker where the likes of Watmore, he's buzzing about.
He's busy, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing with Britt. He doesn't. His anticipation's poor, but I'd still rather have Britt at our club than any other club at the moment. You know what I mean, James? Because when you see him at his explosive best, like he was against Birmingham City, you can see why we paid so much money for him. It's just that we don't see it enough.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
1 in 10 is not good enough, is it?
No. And the thing is, we were talking before we came on air, David, about the fact that it was disappointing last night, and it sort of felt like a missed opportunity, but we're still only 3 points off the playoffs. And at the start of the season, I'm sure that's something as Borough fans we'd have all taken at this time of the year.
Yeah, we need to put it in this perspective of where we were this time last year as well, and how far we've come, and the circumstances of what we're playing in, the surroundings with the COVID. So, he always did say is if we can be around the playoffs around Christmas time and then add to the squad maybe 1 or 2, then who knows? So, I think we don't need to get a little bit carried away so far, but yeah, it's looking really, really positive.
Yeah. Well, you've led us nicely into that there, David. Now, it's that time of the year again, Borough fans. Lots of wailing, gnashing of teeth and other frustrations as Neil Bowser's favourite time of year comes round again. It's the transfer window. One player many fans have mentioned who they want to remain at the club is obviously Duncan Watmore. However, it doesn't appear so straightforward now, does it, Tony? What's your take on it all?
I've just read one of the comments there. If he goes, is it down to the likes of Bowser again? Well, why didn't we offer him longer? Why did we only offer him till the end of January or the middle of January, whenever it was? I thought, but it's the way things are done now. I felt he should have been tied down 4 weeks ago, James. You know what I mean? And obviously now you've got Premier League teams coming in sniffing about. Premier League teams who aren't tearing up trees. If you want to go play for someone who's in a relegation dogfight, it's a strange choice. I think for his development and to get back to the player he used to be, or to reach his potential, I think he's better off staying at the Borough, like Warnock said. You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And I think you've made a good point there. And Lee Bailey's mentioned there that he thinks Burnley's going to come in for Watmore. But there's no guarantee that Burnley will stay up. He's at a club now where he's playing. And Joe, to be honest, it was a difficult situation. I've got some sympathy for the Borough offering him the short-term deal they did, because you've got to bear in mind it's a player that's barely played for almost 2 years. He's had 2 bad cruciate injuries on his knee, and maybe they were thinking if we offer him a long-term contract and he gets another long-term injury, we're saddled with a contract deal which we don't really want to be paying out on, and it's a difficult time financially for clubs. So you can understand why the Borough only offered him a short-term contract, can't you?
Yeah, it's just to see how he develops, and he's done well for us, scoring 5 goals out of the games that he's played. And then all of a sudden, like Premier League clubs like Burnley and West Brom are all coming in for him, and there's a few clubs in the Championship that are after him as well, like Swansea, Stoke, and Watford. But to be honest, I'd rather have him tied down to us at least until the end of the season, just so if we can develop him more and hopefully push on for the playoffs. And I'm hoping that he does, because he's done well since he came to us.
Yeah. And David, it's clear that Neil Warnock would like to add wingers to our squad. In the past week, obviously, Yannick Bolassi's been mentioned all the time. Kamil Grzycki's name's been mentioned as well. Do you think it's a case of maybe one or the other, or could we go for both? What do you think?
I think we could go for both, but there'd have to be a departure in there somewhere. And I think last night bringing Brown on over Roberts, and we've all read in the papers the last couple of weeks, it looks like Roberts' time is over. That substitution just highlighted it to me last night. So I think if Roberts does go, you can see a case for both of them coming in. But they're on big wages. We can't forget that. So if we could just keep Watmore and add, I don't know, Balassi, you'd have to say it was a really good transfer window.
Yeah.
I've heard Christian Atsu from Newcastle's been mentioned as well as a possible alternative for Balassi, if that doesn't realise as well.
Yeah, it's what route does Warnock want to go down? Do you want to bring an experienced player in, or Atsu hasn't got so much experience, and it's a tricky one. But obviously, we'll see what Neil Warnock does with that. In terms of Britt, Tony, there's a lot of people getting in touch here and saying that they feel as though he's massively underperformed. This is David Towser saying Britt's massively underperformed this season, and Bernardo Fortuna, Britt has never justified his price tag. Harsh or not, Tony?
No, for me, he's never justified 15 million, but how many managers has he played under now? He's under what? God. Monk. Pulis. And this is, and we all keep thinking, is Warnock going to get the best out of him now? Which, given the captain's armband, we thought he was going to show a bit more responsibility, and, but it just doesn't seem to. It will get you 10, 15 goals this season, but is it enough for a £15 million striker? I don't know. Yeah. Not in this league. He should be getting, 20, 25 for that type of money we paid. The other thing is, we've got them both out of contract, haven't we, in January, Britt and Fletcher. Is Fletcher? Yeah. I think Fletcher's, and we just know which way that's going to go now. So, it could go either 2 ways for Britt. He could either start and pull his socks up to put himself in the shop window, or just toss it off till the end of the season. You know what I mean? But I'd hate to see Fletcher go. I still don't think we've seen the best from him. He's another one who's gone from being an absolute bag of you-know-what to being now he's been injured and out the team for a while. Everyone's screaming for him back, you know what I mean? And he was a useless so-and-so before he got injured. Now he's the best striker at the club, and he's not kicking the ball. You know what I mean? So, but
that's often the way that Tony players often look better when they're not playing.
Oh yeah, definitely. So if we can save one, I hope we can save Fletcher. As for Britt, I don't know. We might just, if we don't sell him this January, I think he'll be just gone on a free at the end of the season. So, and like you say, I don't think he's been worth the 15 million.
And it's harsh, David, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, Britt didn't set that transfer fee, and I think everybody, even at the time, recognised that we paid over the odds for him. Neil Warnock's indicated that they're going to open transfer or contract talks with Britt and Ashley Fletcher in the near future, because, as Tony's mentioned, they're both out of contract this summer. How do you see that going? Do you think the two lads will stay on, or do you think with it being in all likelihood they're going to get offered reduced terms, will they be looking to move on?
Yeah, I think obviously we might be one or the other that stays. You're looking at the age, Riddle still want to keep a relatively big contract going, and which we simply can't afford to pay what he's on, so it's going to have to be reduced terms. Where with Fletcher, I think from what I've heard, he's on relatively low wage, so I think you're more likely to see him stay. But with Akpom signing as well, I can only see it being one or the other. He might say he wants to keep both, but realistically, with financially, I think it will only be the one that stays.
Yeah, that's good points made there, David. And Joe, before we leave the transfer window for this week, obviously it's been mentioned in some quarters that since the lockdown and when football returned without crowds in the ground, Borough are losing in the region of £2 million a month. Do you worry that in this transfer window, to maybe balance the books, we might see one of our key men move away from the club?
Possibly. I know. I can see the only thing being that Patrick Roberts will probably end up joining Celtic. Obviously we'll be letting go of him. But I think I've seen one bit in the article today about Sombalonga, about the contract he's on, that can cause a bit of financial losses for us come next season. So we'll have to look at the bigger picture, like maybe a couple of loan deals will possibly do for us in this window, but we'll see what January brings, basically.
Yeah. I mean, Tony,
I'm not getting this Patrick Roberts hysteria, you know what I mean? I just don't know why everyone's so hell-bent on getting Patrick Roberts on the field of play, because even on his first loan spell, we never seen enough of him, James. He was explosive. I think he got us a penalty in his first couple of games before he went lame, and then he put a couple of half-decent performances in after lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's not Juninho, you know what I mean? People are he's the best player at the club since Juninho. He's a loanee. He's a Man City player, and I just don't get it. If he's got a loanee on the bench, he's got Marcus Brown on the bench who's gone out on loan and come back. Yeah, put Marcus Brown on. He wants to stay at the club. He signed for the club. I just don't get it. I just hope we don't lose the likes of Dale Fry, James. If clubs come sniffing in, will we be in a position to resist teams coming in for the likes of Dale? Yeah. Even the likes of Marvin Johnson, who's been absolutely fantastic for me, you know what I mean? We can't afford to lose anyone from the squad. But like you say, if we have to balance the books somewhere, £2 million a month's a hell of a lot of money for any business to be leaking, James.
Yeah. I mean, David Towers has just gone, before we leave the transfer situation, just said, players at the end of the contracts now, is Borough coming at the end of a horrific transfer recruitment policy that dates back 4 or 5 years. And I don't think there's little doubt in that, is there, David, that this is like the last of the big contract earners that are coming to the end of that now. And it has been a bit of a costly spell for the club, and it's been, the majority of it's been spent in the Championship.
Yeah, we all know the big mistakes we made under Monk with the transfer fees, agent fees, and then wages. And obviously in the summer we recruit quite a lot back off that with the likes of Ayala and Shotton and players leaving. So this summer will be a fresh slate, you could say. And you just hope we've learned from our mistakes, don't you? And we just don't offer those silly contracts. And going back to what you said earlier, maybe that is why we offered the Duncan Watmore only the 2-month contract. We're looking into those types of mistakes we've made previously.
Yeah, fair point. Well, lads, we'll leave a transfer. We know no doubt we'll revisit that over the next month plenty of times. But Saturday brings our first ever league game with Wycombe Wanderers. Tony, bearing in mind that Warnock on last night's game at half-time apparently went through the Borough players and saying that they didn't get into the opposition from the off. Are you anticipating Borough coming out the blocks on Saturday at Adams Park?
No, not really, James. I think we like the games that we've done well in. We've let the opposition have a lot of the ball, and we've grew into games. It's been years since we started a game really quick and went at a team. You know what I mean? No matter who the manager was. I think we'll just be patient, James, and usually, while Warnock's been there, if we can get in front, it's hard for teams to break us down. So, like you say, I think we'll just start nice and measured. I don't know much about them. If they're a possession-based, if they like to keep a lot of the ball, if they like to pass it about, I don't know now about Wycombe. But let's not take these teams for granted, like we were saying last week, James. Let's go there and hopefully come away with 3 points.
Yeah. And David, many people will have predicted a season of struggle for the Chair Boys, with it being the first ever season in the second tier of English football and having relatively few resources. But they haven't been cut adrift, and they've come into this game having won against Cardiff last night, so they'll be up for the scrap, won't they?
Yeah, and they haven't really been heavily beaten all season by many teams, and they've put up a good fight. So what is Gary Ainsworth has got them very, a close-knit unit, so that they will all fight for each other, but they're very direct as well. Akinfenwa was going to be a bit of a handful, and it'd be interesting to see how Fry and McNair deal with him, because he is one unit.
Well put, mate, there. Joe, obviously there Tony was mentioning about, and David has as well, the style of play that Wycombe use and perform under. Who should we be looking out for as maybe threats from Wycombe at the weekend?
Well, from what I've seen of Wycombe, they're definitely a threat when it comes to like corners, etc. Like their centre-back pairing, like Anthony Stewart, for example, can cause a threat when it comes to corners. And I think we touched on Akinfenwa as well, even though he's been mostly a sub the last few appearances for Wycombe. But I think the top scorer at the moment has been Scott Kashke, I think, with I think it's about 3 or 4 goals to his name this season. So I think those 3 players are going to be ones to watch, I think, for Wycombe.
Yeah. Right, lads, predictions then, prediction time. Tony, come to you first. Wycombe Wanderers away, Saturday. What's the score going to be?
2-0 Borough.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed, mate. David?
I think it'll be a tight affair. 1-0 to the Borough.
1-0 Borough. Go on, Joe.
It'll be a tight one, no doubt, but I think we'll just scrape it to 2-0.
2-0. Well, I'll make it full house, and I'm going to go 2-1 Borough. So we'll see. I hope we're right. We need the 3 points at the weekend, without doubt, after last night. David Towers has gone 2-0 Borough with John Guesty. Paul Scobie 3-1 Borough. Fahim Majid, he's gone 1-0 Wycombe. Oh, I hope you're on there, Fahim.
Oh, get up.
Always one.
And Kev Short, he's got 3-0 Borough. A Sombalonga will score. It'll be just like Brit. Ward it, Tony, to get a goal at the weekend.
Oh, definitely. Come back and that's he proves us wrong every other game. You know what I mean? So
I hope he does. I hope he does, mate. Well, everyone, that's your offer tonight and this year on Borough Fan TV. But don't worry, we're going to be back on our usual slot next Monday night. We'll look back at the Wycombe game and we're going to review the Championship season at the halfway point. So we'll have a review of the season in general in the Championship. And we're also going to look ahead to the Brentford game in the FA Cup third round. Thanks, lads. Joe, David, Guesty for being on the show tonight. Great to have you on again, lads.
Here's that.
Nice
cheers,
one.
Hutchy.
Yeah, cheers. Happy New Year to everyone.
From us all here at Borough Fan TV, we wish you a happy New Year, happy and healthy 2021. Until next week, from us all, good night and up the Borough.
Up the Borough.
Up the Borough.
Yeah.